In this lesson, we're going to look at the string part for task 1A. Some of the techniques that you're going to need to employ for this track are advanced skills. It's going to take you a little bit of time to master them. It's going to take you a little bit of time just to kind of work things out. I would definitely start learning these on fresh tracks and just make sure that as you go through, just make sure you save your work. That being said, I've had a lot of fun trying to work these parts out, and I think I'm almost there. There's a few of the sections that I haven't worked out the notes yet because the mix is quite dense and the strings are quite low in the mix at certain parts. So I haven't quite got the notes yet, but I'm almost there, and I've certainly got the sounds that I want. So let's have a look at this. So it starts off, I think it's bar 8 of the intro, and you just have this singular note, and it's kind of a vibrato sound. Then it moves on to this section here, and it's just, this is where the padded section comes in. So then you're going to have to probably use a second track to get the pads from the vibrato strings. Okay, so that carries on for a bit further, and you can see the actual pads building up here. And then once again you have this other part, just these last 4 notes in fact. Now I've used yet another track to just get these 4 notes down. To my ears, this is staccato strings, and I've put it on violas actually, but just because I wanted the kind of sound of the violas to make this very staccato. So my string pads, although it's on 1 line, I've actually put it over 3. Okay, so let me just show you what I've done here. So as you can see, I've got my vibrato pattern, which is that individual note. Then I've got my violas, which is the staccato pattern, just that raising string sound that you saw. And then I've got my string pad sound. There's a lot of stuff happening here. So let's have a look at the panning first off. When you hear the vibrato strings, you'll hear them in the left speaker. Okay, there. To my ears, and remember you do need to do your own listening, but to my ears, the vibrato sound is coming out of the left ear. The pads are a full spread. For the most part, they are coming out of the center. Sometimes I hear them a little bit in the right, sometimes I hear them a little bit in the left, but so to my ears, that's a full spread across the center, okay? And then the violins, I'm hearing that in the right, and you're getting this really nice bounce from this vibrato sound to the main string sound, and then onto the actual staccato strings. You're getting this kind of bounce from the left to the right. Let me just show you that. Okay, so you can hear that, and it's, yeah, it just really works. So let me play that in the mix so you can see for yourself what I'm hearing.
When you read your speech, it's tiring. Enough is enough.
Okay, so you should have heard that, but once again, you'll probably get a better idea for this from your own speakers, from your own listening. How have I created it? So let's start with the vibrato. Once again, all of the instruments I've used are fairly low in the mix. So I've brought them right down. Okay, so actually the staccato sound was the one I had to bring up the most because it's such a thin sound. I'll just push that, and I'll probably push it a bit higher as well. The pads are low in the mix. Let me take this off a solo. Now I've put in a few red areas here. This one, this one, this one, and this one, because I know that there are strings happening. I just haven't worked out the notes yet. This is a vibrato sound, that's why I put it in this channel, and this is a string sound. I suspect that these notes here are just the roots of the chords. Once it gets to this one, it's not the same as this. This has got a faster pattern happening, but you do have this vibrato sound. Once again, it's not the same as this one though. It seems a bit lower to me. It's slightly different. We'll have to have a little listen to both of those. So back to my actual sound. We've looked at the actual panning of the sound. We've looked at the position in the mix. So now, how did I create the vibrato? If you're using Logic, we're using the ESX, which is the only tool for this job. I have started with a preset. So I've started with this preset of violins because it is a very individual sound, that kind of the vibrato. So we started with the individual sound of violins, but we've had to do a lot of changing. How I've got the vibrato is I've had to use the LFO. So I've used LFO 1 and LFO 2, and this is how I've patched them in. So the vibrato in its nature is a pitch sound, so we've had to kind of manipulate the pitch on LFO 1, and to get that kind of accent that I want, I've actually used a bit of volume as well. So I've patched in the volume onto LFO 2, sorry, and you could probably find different ways of doing this, but this is the way that I've chosen. So I've used this waveform for my LFOs, and I had to be very careful because the actual rhythm for the kind of pulse of the pitch or the vibrato is very distinct. Now, to my ears, it's 16, but I was juggling between 12 and 16. In the end, I settled for 16, and I set both of these LFOs up to 16, so the pitch and the volume are both set as 16s. Now, if you haven't done this kind of work before, and I suspect a lot of you haven't, this is called routing. So we are routing very much from the pitch parameter, which is kind of here, actually in the part itself. So if it was a C sharp, that's taking the C sharp note, and then it's making it fluctuate. Now, what you have is this root note here, okay? So that says, okay, this is the C, and this arrow is saying how much you want it to vary from the C. Now, if I click on it, I've got 40 cents. Now, 40 cents is a fraction of a semitone. It takes 100 cents to make a semitone, okay? So that's really important. So the fluctuation in pitch is going to happen from the note itself to 40 cents up, okay? So I'm hearing that in a very upward direction. So I've set the speed using the LFO 1. So this is setting my speed. This rate parameter is setting my speed. And this dial here is setting the amount of pitch that I want it to fluctuate by. And it's the same with the volume. I actually wanted a ducking sound this time, so I've actually brought the volume down so I get that ducking sound, okay? And once again, I've set the rate, the speed at which the ducking sound happens, or the volume change happens, I've set at 1 to 16. There is a rhythm there, and once again, you will lose a lot of marks if you don't get the rhythm absolutely accurate. So make sure you agree with what I'm saying. Some of you might go, actually, that's not right, I don't agree with that, and that's absolutely fine. You have to be certain that the rhythms that you are choosing are right for you. Now, the other thing that I've done is I've had to do something with the envelope here. So the ADSR envelope, attack, decay, sustain and release. I've pushed the sustain right up, and this is giving me a very accented sound. It's a very punchy sound. In order to get the velocity working properly, there is a little bit of a fade, so I needed a little bit of attack and I needed a little bit of release, but the original sounds were a lot higher, so I had to bring them right down. I brought the decay off so I didn't get kind of a pulsing sound. So I've got a very hard-hitting punchy sound from the sustain and an almost instant sound from the attack and release, okay? So those are the main parameters that I've had to change in order to get this. Now, let's listen to what I've got compared to the track itself. So let's solo this area. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. So let's play my one first so you can actually hear the sound. Okay, now let's play their one. As you can hear, that's not too bad. Let me just mute their one and play it with the track this time. My one's probably slightly louder, but I will adjust that. But as you can hear, the actual sound that I've chosen is quite accurate. The only other thing I've done is put a lot more reverb on, and that goes across all of my 3 channels. There is a lot of reverb on the strings in general. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is this pad sound. So scrolling through my mix, which the first one on the score comes in here. Okay. So the actual sound that I'm using, if we come up here, is the full strings. And thinking about it, I didn't do anything to this sound. It's buried so deep in the mix that it's quite difficult to actually get the right sound anyway. So I was just looking for this full-bodied string sound. Once I get a sense of what's happening further, I might change this. But at the moment, I've done nothing to this original sound. But I have made sure that the sound was on the EXS24, just so that I can change it later on and mix around with it. Okay, so let's listen to my one first, and then we'll listen to their one. Okay, here's their one.
Speech, it's tiring. Enough is enough.
Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. Now let's look at the violas and what we've done here. Now, there's still probably some more work to do on these ones, but I've got the pitch, and it's C5 for the pitch, or C#5 for the pitch here. And let's just listen to theirs. Now, did I do any manipulation on the violas? No, the violas are pretty much from the same, are pretty much untouched. So the actual string sound that I chose was actually the violas. To make them a bit punchy, I've pushed the sustain up a little bit, and I've reduced the attack completely. That is pretty much all I've done to this one. Okay, so let's have a listen. Like I say, I might need to change it around. I might need to have another look at it. It sounds like theirs might be, their EQs might be changed just ever so slightly. So let's have a listen to theirs first.
Speech, it's tiring. Enough is enough.
Now let's listen to mine. No, I'm really happy with that. One thing I did have to do with the viola sound is it is a staccato sound, so the notes have to be a lot shorter. On the score, they're showing quavers. As you can see, I've actually done them as semi-quavers, so I've actually shortened them by half the length. And literally all I did for this is, when I was inputting them, I put them in there, I selected them all, and literally just brought them in shorter. You can make them a lot shorter if you want that more punchy sound. That's absolutely fine. That is pretty much how I got these results. So remembering there is some panning that you have to do, remembering to bring up the reverbs, and I would say put them across all three channels. Put them across three channels, just so you've got those very distinctive sounds. You probably could achieve the same result on one, but I suspect there'll be a lot of automation that needs doing. Okay, well that brings it to the end of what I was going to discuss with you. I just want to remind you that there are extra parts that you have to work out on this. So just looking at where I've put the red ones, not these dark, what colour is that, orange? Not these dark orange ones, but these red ones here. Come to doing your own sequence, you are going to need to kind of work out the input. Once again, this is very much the vibrato bit, but this one here is probably just the root notes of the chords, okay? But you will need to listen, you will need to kind of try and work that out. Okay, now it's your turn, so we'll see you in the next lesson.